8. Magnus. As the loud pops of breaking ice echoed through the mountains, our pace quickened. Another crack appeared in the frozen form of the Shadow Slayer, and my father propped the front door of the shed open, urging us in backward. "Spread out and light the lanterns," he whispered hurriedly. My father kept watch at the door, his eyes never leaving the creature as my brother and I lit the lanterns. "Prop open the windows, quickly," he instructed. We rushed to the opposite sides of the shed and propped open the wooden window covers, letting in streams of sunlight. As the shed brightened, my father finally took his eyes off the Shadow Slayer, surveying the space. "Good. Now listen closely," he whispered. "We don't have much time. There's a secret passage that will take you to the caverns below. The northern path will take you to a large opening 1 mile north of our cabin. Ignore it. I want you to find the west passage and follow it all the way to a small exit off the mountain overlooking Vastrogon. There are supplies at the end of the tunnel. You two can camp inside there for a few weeks. No problem. Wait for me there." I shook my head in disbelief. "You're not coming?" I demanded, panic flooding my thoughts. We've never been more than a few feet apart for most of my life, and now he was sending us down some dark cave tunnel alone. I couldn't believe this was happening. It was all happening so fast that I didn't have time to think. I didn't have time to plan. After all these years of training, and now a Shadow Slayer stood frozen before us, and I had no idea how to handle it, let alone my thoughts and emotions. Peyland gripped my arm, and as I looked down into his face, it was clear his thoughts and emotions mirrored my own. My father knelt in front of us, placing a hand on each of our shoulders. His eyes burned as tears began to streak down his face. "There's no time. I have to hold it off. If it finds us in the dark tunnels, we won't stand a chance. We'll all be dead and not even know what hit us." Tears filled my eyes as I whispered, "Dad, you can't leave us. We need you. We can't do this alone. You're all we've got." With tears in his own eyes, my father hugged us both. "This is what we've trained for. I don't know how they found us, but we're going to get through this. I promise. I can handle myself against this creature, so don't worry about me. Just get down there and head west," he said. My father led us to a far back corner of the shed and pushed some barrels aside, revealing a rock wall with a crest bearing the same half-wolf, half-lion symbol as the one at our old house. He quickly turned it back and forth using a combination, and something clunk beneath our feet. "I love you, boys, more than anything," he said as the darkness engulfed us. We descended the smooth rock face, the light of our lanterns providing brief glimpses of the tunnel ahead. I longed to scream out to him, to tell him that I loved him too, a sentiment I had always struggled to express, but heard regularly from him. But I knew it was not safe to speak, so I kept my thoughts to myself and clung to the hope of seeing him soon. As we slipped down into the darkness, it felt as though we had been sliding for an eternity. But eventually, the incline began to level out, and we were forced to crawl on our hands and knees. Peyland was the first to emerge from the passage and enter the cavernous cave. The interior was at least 3 times larger than our largest shed, with walls towering above most houses. I crawled out behind him, and I saw Peyland quickly covering the light from his lantern with his cloak. Without thinking, I froze in my tracks, and that's when I heard it. Something was breathing down here. In the darkness, I could hear a deep inhale, followed by a rumbling growl that echoed off the cavern walls. I too covered my lantern and waited, listening as the breathing and growling continued in a steady rhythm. Whatever it was, it seemed we had not disturbed it. With our lanterns obscured, I noticed that with each exhale from whatever the creature was, the cave would light up for a brief moment, and in that moment, the entire cavern was illuminated. As we waited in the darkness, my impatience grew. My goal was clear, to travel north and aid my father, but the beast was stood in our way. We were experienced hunters, and knew that it was likely a bear in hibernation, but I could not let that stop me from helping my father. The breathing and growling continued in a steady rhythm, almost as if the beast was snoring. Yet, every so often, as it exhaled a deep rumbling breath, the cavern would illuminate in a bright orange light. I moved ahead of Peyland, making my way toward the sleeping creature. But Peyland pulled on my cloak, gesturing for us to go west. I shook my head, pointing north. "We're going to help Dad," I whispered. With a look of determination in his eyes, he nodded in agreement. Our task now was to pass the sleeping beast and to get to the north tunnel. We moved through the cavern in silence, the light from our lanterns barely visible through our cloaks, guiding us in the darkness. As we crept closer, the dark outline of the slumbering beast came into view. The creature was enormous, easily the size of our cabin, and radiating heat like a furnace. As it snored, the cave was bathed in fiery light, revealing a wolf-like creature that breathed fire with each exhale of breath. Peyland grasped my arm in a furious grip, his eyes wide with excitement. He turned to me, and in the light of the fire, I saw the glimmer of hope in his eyes. "We must hurry," I whispered to him. "There is room on the other side of the beast." But Peyland shook his head, his eyes alight with a fierce determination. He made a fist and punched his open palm repeatedly. "You want to punch it?" I asked in disbelief. "Are you mad? It would eat us whole." But Peyland only shook his head and continued to pound his fist into his palm. I had grown accustomed to Peyland's penchant for danger and reckless behavior over the years. I remembered one hunting trip where he had leapt from a tree branch and landed directly on top of a full-grown buck. The poor creature kicked and struggled to no avail as Peyland rode it like a wild stallion. We laughed for a long time until the buck finally collapsed, exhausted beneath him. So when Peyland suggested punching the fire-breathing wolf lion that stood before us, I had resigned myself to ignoring him and finding a way around the beast. And as it let out a great breath of fire, illuminating the cave, I finally saw what Peyland's sharp eyes had already discerned. This was not just any ordinary magical creature, but an Ale'ric guardian, and not just any guardian, but the very one engraved on the crest of our old house, and the crest that had led us to this secret passage. The sight of the legendary guardian filled me with hope and excitement. I opened my cloak, allowing the light of my lantern to flood the cave and get a better look at this magnificent creature. My fear dissipated, replaced by a sense of awe and wonder. I stood tall for the first time in my life and placed my lantern on the ground. "Peyland!" I exclaimed, my voice echoing off the cavern walls. "This is the guardian our father always spoke of. The stories of the guardians have been passed down through generations, but this one is the one that gives him hope." I pointed to the enormous sleeping lion wolf in front of me. "This is Magnus, protector of the innocent, defender of the weak, hero of Langros, and champion of the flame."